Israel versus Iran, the shocking biblical truth that haunts US forever past, present future revealed. The night was cloaked in an eerie silence that felt almost like a warning. A thick fog rolled over the ancient city, swirling around the crumbling stones of Jerusalem. It was as if the air itself was charged with whispered secrets, a shroud hiding the heart of a mystery that had lingered for centuries. People say that certain events are written in the stars, but what if they were written in blood? The kind of blood that stains history and leaves ghosts in the wake of its fury. Underneath the surface of our daily lives lies an unsettling truth. Have you heard about the bizarre string of coincidences surrounding the Israel-Iran conflict? The long-standing enmity that held nations hostage, believed to be fueled by ideologies, might carry deeper, ancient roots, pulpit tales of prophecy and signs from the holy texts. From the moment a shroud of dust rose over the ziggurat, a monumental relic tied to biblical stories, people couldn't shake off the icy grip of fate. They stared wide-eyed, wrestling with their beliefs, struggling to understand if history was merely repeating itself, or if it was fate weaving a terrifying tapestry anew. As the clock struck midnight, a bolt of lightning illuminated the dark skies, revealing shadows that danced like phantoms of a forgotten past. Tension crackled through the air. Some dared to believe these were omens, messages sent from the beyond, warning of terrible things to come. Israel's prime minister, eyes narrowed and hands shaking, disclosed on live television that he received cryptic messages about an incoming catastrophe. His voice trembled, causing fear to ripple through every living room, every heart. What could the message mean? Where would that lead? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With every tick of the clock, more strange symbols appeared, mysterious graffiti emerging in the sacred city, claiming that the end was near. The air became thick with dread. There were whispers among crowds of the legend of a chosen one poised to bring peace or unleash chaos. Who could this be? Could it be a mere figure spoken of in cryptic texts, a person alive today? Murmurs filled the alleys, questions hung like storm clouds. Fear hung heavy like a lead blanket. People could feel it, their hearts beat wildly against their chests. Some defied the panic, shouting back at the confusion, drawing on courage from a fading history of resilience. But could they battle what lay ahead? The fragmented thoughts of countless frightened souls blended into a cacophony of despair. Where would it lead? What was the truth no one could face? The tension of the night thickened, leaving everyone gripping the edges of uncertainty. The final crackle of thunder boomed overhead as the storm erupted. Light exploded into the sky, illuminating faces twisted in shock and terror. Was this a signal? A warning? Or just nature's ferocious display? One thing was sure, the path forward was clouded, shrouded in dread. Secrets hidden in shadows would emerge. The fateful question remained: who would survive the revelation, and at what cost? The chaos of the storm raged on, whipping through Jerusalem like a raging beast, and still, an unnatural chill settled over the city. Candles flickered in the windows, their light casting trembling shadows on the walls as families huddled together, casting anxious glances at their screens. News reports layered the atmosphere with urgency. One anchor's voice trembled as he warned of escalating tensions in the region. In the heart of the city, a crowd had gathered around a makeshift shrine, a tangle of flowers and candles, each one a plea for peace in a world spiraling into chaos. But amid the sorrow and hope stood a figure, cloaked in a dark hood, who seemed separate from the others. His breath visible in the cold night air, it was as if he bore the weight of the fear that gripped the people. "Do you feel it?" He spoke, his voice a low murmur, barely above the storm's howling wind. The people turned, glancing at him with curiosity mixed with apprehension. He continued, "The signs are all around us. The old texts, they weren't just stories, they were warnings. As the crowd leaned in, drawn closer by an invisible force, another clap of thunder echoed, shivering through the onlookers. They exchanged knowing looks, as if caught in a web of shared fate. It's happening. The world is on the brink of something unimaginable, he urged, eyes burning with conviction. The weight of his words hung heavy, suffocating, as uncertainty reigned supreme. Some of the crowd stepped back, voices rising. Enough with the fear-mongering, shouted a man, pushing forward. This is just a storm. You'll spread panic. But that only fueled the hooded figure. Panic can be a shadow, blinding you to the light. Open your eyes, this has roots deeper than we can see. Suddenly, the ground trembled, shaking beneath their feet. Gasps erupted as bricks clattered from old buildings. A tremor of energy stirred around them, a mix of confusion and terror sending ripples through their ranks. Had he spoken truth, or was it a horrific manipulation? The man faltered, uncertainty shadowing his face, and then, from behind the crowd, a piercing scream shattered the tension. A woman, face pale as death, staggered forward, clutching a cloth. "Look!" she screamed, eyes wide with horror. The cloth drenched in a deep crimson hue unfurled, revealing symbols stark against the fabric. "It's a message." A hush fell over the crowd. Was this the omen they feared? Was the chosen one among them, or had they just invoked a deeper darkness? Voices echoed with confusion, a cacophony of questions choking the air. What if this was it? What if the floodgates of prophecy were about to burst? As the city trembled with unrelenting chaos and panic, the hooded figure stepped forward, raising shaking hands toward the heavens. "It's not just a scripture. It's our fate. And our fate is intertwined." With his proclamation, a blinding flash lit the sky, illuminating Jerusalem for an instant like a nerve-wracking flash of truth. Gasps filled the air, hearts froze. The fear became palpable, a living entity. In the streets, as time hung in the balance, the questions gripped everyone tighter. What awaited them after this storm? What truths would be revealed, and who would brave the tempest ahead? A flicker of hope mingled with despair, leaving hearts racing, and the air thick with dread. They all stood at a precipice, destiny silently colliding with fate. What would emerge from the shadows? Who would rise, and who would fall? As the storm raged on, one truth became undeniable: the revelation was only beginning. The moment the blinding flash faded, the crowd stood frozen. Time seemed caught in a heartbeat, vibrating with fear and uncertainty. A low rumble echoed from the horizon, almost a growl in response to the looming tempest. People whispered in hushed tones, worry etched across their faces. What was that? One voice quivered, another answered, a warning, or the end. The hooded figure remained steadfast, his silhouette sharp against the dying light. The symbols on the crimson cloth danced in his trembling hands, flickering like fire in the darkness. He gazed at the crowd with eyes that shone like embers. This is a call to arms, a herald of change. The winds of fate howl. Will you face them or cower in fear? Murmurs rippled through the throng as indecision hung heavy in the air. Anxiety clawed at throats and squeezed hearts. A young girl clutched her mother's side, her wide eyes reflecting the candle's flicker, pulsing with the dread of the unknown. "Mommy, I'm scared," she whimpered. "Stay close," her mother whispered, a tremor in her voice. The fear was contagious. A cacophony erupted as people pushed against each other, attempting to escape the shadows that crept closer, swallowing their hopes. "We need to go," shouted a man, panic flooding his gaze as he clutched the hand of his wife, urging her backward. "Now!" But the hooded figure stepped forward again, voice rising above the storm's fury. "You must not run. You cannot escape what is coming. Accept it, or you will be swept away." The crowd grew restive, torn between the impulse to flee and the compulsion to stand firm. Suddenly, another lightning bolt crashed overhead, illuminating the looming clouds like a monstrous beast ready to pounce. Then, a shriek pierced the air, more penetrating than the storm. Someone had collapsed. A man, face twisted in pain, writhed on the ground. "Help! Please help!" His voice came out as a gasp, desperation clawing for life. The crowd turned, a wave of panic washing over them as they forced themselves to look away from the stranger writhing in agony. He reached out, eyes wild, seeking connection, pleading loudly, "I know. I can feel them. The shadows. They're coming for us. Don't listen to him." A voice shouted in rising anger. "It's the storm. He is delirious." But the hushed fears had taken hold too tightly, a tide of disbelief washed over him, shadows creeping further forward. In a frenzy, the hooded figure moved toward the wounded man. "You can feel them?" he asked, voice tense yet soft, as if speaking to an old friend. "Tell us what you see." The man's breath hitched, gasping, They're rising. The lost, the anger, the pain they're awakening." His eyes rolled back, every word weaving visions of terror for those listening. "The signs, oh, they're all around us. We must act now." The energy crackled in the air, thickening with tension, propelling the crowd into action. Some shifted to help the fallen man, others jostled to flee. But was retreat a solution if the darkness had truly awakened? A woman, desperate yet fierce, stepped forward, her face a mask of determination. "Enough. We cannot run from this. Look around, you feel it. This is more than just a storm. Do you want to face the whispers of prophecy?" The hooded figure continued, raising his voice, rallying people toward courage against the chaos enveloping them. "What will you do when the shards of fate come crashing down?" The crowd hovered on the brink of a decision, captivated and terrified. Then, just ahead, the wind howled, and the ground shook again. Beneath the storm's fury, the city itself felt alive, as if the very earth had chosen sides. As night enveloped Jerusalem, the tension reached a boiling point. Lives were about to be irrevocably altered, choices made or shunned in the name of hope or despair. With the promise of the storm and its tragic dilemmas echoing among them, one question resonated louder than the rest: how long could they stay silent before the storm claimed its due? As the crowd pressed on, urgency filled every heart. Ready or not, the storm's reckoning was near. And as each figure stood watch, each eyes fixed on what lay ahead, the haunting realization dawned: the time had come to uncover the truth they all dreaded. The wind picked up, screaming like a banshee as the crowd pulsed in agitation. The streetlights flickered, casting erratic shadows that danced like troubled souls. People exchanged frantic looks, caught in an electric moment where destiny hung in the balance. "Listen." The hooded figure's voice pierced the swirl of panic. "The storm isn't just a warning, it's an awakening. Feel it in your bones. The earth trembles beneath our weight of ignorance." A low rumble from deep within the ground echoed his urgency, sparking a jolt of fear through the throng. Eyes darted skyward, where dark clouds churned and twisted, seemingly alive with malevolent intent. The scent of rain mixed with the raw scent of fear, thickening the air around them. The fallen man groaned again, eyes wide with a mix of terror and revelation. "You think it's just the storm? No. It's a door opening to what we've buried. The anger, the pain, we can't ignore it." Words spilled out of him like a river breaking its dam, flooding the space around them. "They're coming. The lost souls, the shadows of the past demanding justice, it's all real. Maggie, we should go." A woman shouted, her voice cracking. She clutched her daughter, who stared, transfixed, at the chaotic scene. Faces softened with empathy, yet fear gnawed at their resolve. "No!" yelled the determined woman from the front. "Running 1T, save us. This is our moment to decide." She stepped closer to the hooded figure, a spark of unity forming amidst the chaos. "Tell us how to fight. We can't stand by and let the storm swallow us whole." For a moment, the tension split the crowd like a knife. Whispers of agreement fluttered through like leaves in the wind. But before the hooded figure could respond, the ground shook again, violent, deep, primal, as if it echoed a cosmic heartbeat. From deep within the heart of the city, an ancient sound erupted. It resonated like a choir of lamenting spirits rising from the graves. The voices, layered with sorrow and rage, twisted around the people. "Help us! Free us!" they cried, a chorus familiar yet unnerving. "What is that?" someone shrieked, eyes wide as terror flickered in the depths of their soul. "Look!" a man bellowed, pointing. Silhouettes began to emerge from the shadows, vague forms with features distorted by despair. The crowd gasped, frozen in a tableau of dread. The darkness was alive, swirling with the remnants of those lost, forgotten sins clawing their way back to the surface. "They're here." the wounded man wheezed, clutching at his chest. "We have to listen to their stories, we owe it to them." But still, panic reigned. People stumbled backward, their survival instincts taking over as they sought escape from the encroaching despair. "You fools! Facing them is our only hope," the woman cried. "Hiding won't do anything but bring the end closer." Revulsion flickered across faces as the first figure broke through the veil of shadows, a torrent of grief pouring into their realization. An apparition cloaked in sorrow reached out a hand. "Why did you turn away? We are the echoes of your choices." Just then, another thunderous clap of lightning split the sky, illuminating the spectral figures for a split second. Screams erupted as the crowd surged back in a wave of terror, their instincts overshadowing reason. The hooded figure stood firm, arms raised, channeling all his fervor into his words. "You must confront what haunts you. Only then will you hold the power to change." But would they? Heartbeats quickened, breaths shallow, there was no mistaking the urgency of this moment. Desperation painted their faces as the shadows advanced, hunger in their hollow eyes, silently demanding attention. "Together!" the fierce woman shouted. "United, we can face them." As the fear tightened its grip, one pivotal question remained unclear: could they gather the courage to stand firm, or would they allow the shadows of the past to consume them whole? With that uncertainty looming, the storm raged and the ground quaked. What awaited them when darkness rose? The air crackled with tension, every gasp and murmur rising in a crescendo of fear. People stood paralyzed, emotions lockstep between horror and defiance. The shadows drawing closer pulsed with an energy that whispered of sorrow and lost hope. The hooded figure turned slowly, his eyes glinting under the tattered fabric, catching the light just enough to show a flash of determination. "You must confront your past. It's the key to our survival." "Enough." A voice emerged from the depths of the panic, a man with wild eyes, desperation clawing at his throat. "What do you mean, the past? We didn't even know it was here." His shout cut through the fearful murmurs, laying bare the raw truth. The specters loomed, ethereal and twisted, fingers stretched pleadingly as if trying to reach out into this world. "You buried us, you ignored us," came the echo of voices, a cacophony of the damned that resonated deep within the crowd's hearts. Maggie, clutching her daughter, felt her resolve waver. Are they really here? Can we actually help them? Her heart thundered, caught between disbelief and a grim curiosity. "Look closer," the hooded figure urged, his voice gaining strength. "They are your missed chances, the kindness you turned away, the words left unspoken. These are our collective sins. Each one a consequence of our actions." The figures grew more distinct, faces emerging from the shadows, etched with a depth of misery that mingled with the storm's howl. They deserve to be heard. The wounded man choked out, struggling to his feet. "There's truth in their pain, bitter, yes, but it is the truth we must face." Their anguish struck the crowd like arrows, piercing the numbing veil of fear. As the storm unleashed its fury above, igniting the sky in hues of violet, hope flickered in the eyes of a few. The fierce woman took a step forward, arms wide. "I will stand with you. We can't shy away from what we've neglected. Together, we'll fight for their stories. People hesitated, then began to murmur, embers of courage flickering to life among some. Yet for every voice of defiance, there were 10 anchored in doubt. The overwhelming instinct to flee pulsed through them, urging self-preservation. The figures inched toward the crowd, desperate, eyes void of light but full of unquenchable longing. "They don't want revenge," the hooded figure shouted. "They want recognition. Only through acknowledging our past can we find redemption." A booming clap of thunder shook the ground, and the darkness simmered with energy, feeding on the fear. The shadows cast horrendous reflections, morphing into faces of lost loved ones and long-forgotten friends, reaping the consequences of silence and inaction. "No!" cried a woman at the back, clutching her child tighter than ever. "We've done nothing wrong. How can this be our fault?" "Because ignoring the hurt breeds more of it." The fierce woman fought back, her voice rising above the storm. "It's time we stepped forward, no matter how heavy their grief weighs on us." In that moment, as the storm raged, something shifted. The crowd turned towards each other, eyes alight with uncertainty and what felt like a fragile unity. They breathed deeper, the heaviness lifting from their chests, if only for a breath, yet, before they could fully commit, another supernatural wail erupted from the shadows, chilling them to the core. "Why do you hesitate? The time is now, or it may be too late." Staring into the swirling void, they felt the pulse of an age-old question: what price would they pay for their silence? Lightning crackled anew as they braced for an answer. Would they rise to face their truths, or would the voices of the past drown them in despair? The crowd felt the air thicken, the tension wrapping around them like a vice. Each heartbeat was a countdown. The figures in the shadows drew closer, their expressions shifting between rage and sorrow, as if waiting for the decision that loomed like a storm cloud overhead. Eyes darted nervously between the hooded figure and the wailing specters. Maggie saw the fierce woman's face, a mask of determination lit by the erratic glow of the sky. "This is our moment," she cried, her voice threading through the gathering winds. "We can honor them or let them drown alongside our own regrets. Choose now." But a wave of dissent washed over the group. "What if we can't help them? What if we're just inviting more pain into our lives?" A voice quivered from the edge of the crowd, cutting sharply through the fervor. The hooded figure turned to them, urgency swelling in his features. "If you do nothing, you will lose yourselves to the shadows of your past." His words hammered in the air like the relentless storm above. "You cannot silence what was. Their cries will haunt you, gnawing at your soul." The crowd trembled visibly. What would be worse, recognizing the pain they had tried to forget, or living a life shrouded in the darkness of ignored truths? An unspoken dread settled, regret felt heavier than fear. The flash of lightning illuminated each face, revealing their deepest fears reflected back to them. Suddenly, a child's voice rang out, sharp and clear. "Mommy, what's happening? Why are they sad?" All heads turned to the little girl, her innocence stark against the growing tumult. It was a reminder of what was at stake, piercing through the thick gloom. "Can't we just make them happy? Maggie?" The realization crashed over her like the storm itself. This was not just about them anymore, it was about the generations to come, the lives intertwined in this moment. She knelt down, leveling her gaze with her daughter's wide eyes. "Sometimes, listening to others will help them be happy. And it may help us too." The flicker of courage ignited in her chest. "We can be their voice," she whispered fiercely, her heart pounding. "We can turn our fear into action." The hooded figure stepped closer, urgency in his stance. "Yes. Gather your strength. Every voice matters in collective grief. There is healing." Yet, just as the spark of unity threaded through the group, a piercing scream erupted from the shadows, ripping through the moment with terrifying clarity. "You think you can fight the past? You will never be free." Fear surged like tidal waves, crashing against the feeble barricade of determination they had begun to build. Eyes widened, and shoulders hunched as the specters surged forward, their wails weaving into the storm. The air pulsed with desperation, a visceral embodiment of every sin unacknowledged, every tear unshed, pulling the crowd closer toward the edge of despair. "We can't let the fear win," Maggie shouted again, fighting against the tide of panic. Her voice rose, powerful enough to cut through the din. "We owe them this fight. We owe ourselves. This is our chance to reclaim our truth." As she spoke, the lightning flickered, momentarily illuminating the faces of both the living and the lost, frozen in shared recognition. The echoes of their pain seemed to ripple through the crowd, a tension amplified by the specters intensifying their howls. Out of the storm's chaos, a figure broke away from the shadows, someone wearing a familiar face, twisted in sorrow and regret. It was one of their own, lost yet haunting. Maggie's heart seized in her chest. The reality of what lay ahead shifted like a tectonic plate. "Will you face this together?" the hooded figure implored, his voice rising above the cacophony. In this moment, could they truly unite to tell their stories, to face not only their past but the very shadows of their own failures? Or would they stand frozen, watching the darkness swallow them whole, one cry at a time? The storm howled louder, and a crack of thunder declared the question hanging in the air: were they ready to confront the ghost that had returned? To claim them, as dread intertwined with the faintest glimmer of hope, the ground beneath them trembled on the brink of revelation. The shadows grew thicker, almost tangible, wrapping around the crowd like a shroud. Maggie could feel her heart pound against her ribs, echoing the fear coursing through the others. She could barely breathe as the familiar specter moved closer, its face twisted into a mask of grief. It was Tom, a childhood friend lost too soon. His eyes, the same vibrant blue, now held depths of sorrow that seemed to reach into her very soul. "Maggie," he whispered, though the wind twisted his voice into a haunting echo. "You can't escape this, not now." She felt a chill sweep through her, her body reacting instinctively. Every hair on her arms prickled, and her stomach knotted. A scream bubbled at the back of her throat, but she swallowed it down. This wasn't about her anymore. It was about the others. "Look!" she yelled, pointing at Tom. "He's here because we let the regret fester. We must face this. We must acknowledge our pain." Her voice gained momentum, her words reaching into the crowd, sparking recognition, yet, the faces around her twisted in confusion. "No! It can't be him!" a voice shouted, echoing Maggie's own thoughts. "He shouldn't be here." Tom's gaze bore into her. "You know I need you. We all do." The rawness of his voice pulled at her heart like a vice. The hooded figure stepped forward, his presence commanding. "Will you embrace your fear, your sorrow? Only then can you truly help them, yourselves." Maggie swallowed hard, her mind racing. She felt the weight of countless memories swirl within her, a childhood filled with laughter suddenly tainted by loss and silenced truths. The darkness pressed in, and for a moment, despair gnawed at her courage. "Together!" she cried desperately, echoing the sentiment of the hooded figure. "We must confront it together." The members of the crowd began to shuffle, uncertainty breaking their paralysis. Who were they, if not the culmination of their shared grief? "Don't you see?" Maggie pressed on, her voice cracking with urgency. "We can't keep running. We've hidden our pain for so long. But if we come together, we can release this, every tear, every ounce of regret." A murmur started to ripple through the crowd, gaining strength like a wave. The specters paused, as if weighing their determination. The winds calmed slightly, their howls transforming into an almost anticipatory silence. "Listen to her," the hooded figure urged, his voice piercing the stillness. "Your sorrow doesn't need to be a burden. It can be shared. It can be the healing you've all been searching for." But just then, the ground shuddered violently beneath their feet, a gut-wrenching roar echoing like the howls rising from the abyss. A seismic rift split through the earth, revealing a pit cloaked in darkness. The crowd gasped collectively, their disbelief hammering them in place. From the depths, new figures began to crawl, emerging as if drawn forth by the grief spilling into the atmosphere. Faces distorted by anger, those who had suffered at the hands of neglect and denial. Each face bore a mark, a reminder of things left unacknowledged. They reached out, fingers trembling. No. Another voice rang through, louder than the tempest. This isn't how it has to end. Maggie felt the pounding of her pulse in her ears. We are not alone in this fight. She shouted, forcing all her strength into the declaration. The fear swelled, but so did an ember of hope. We are stronger together. She roared, eyes wide as every single person around her began to nod, a collective realization dawning. But just as unity seemed possible, the shadows swirled, growing darker, bolder. You think you can just forget us? A chorus of wails erupted, drowning out reason. A figure dressed in white emerged from the darkness, shimmering and grotesque. You are not ready for what comes next. The electrified air draped over them heavier than before. Maggie's heart raced, realizing they were perched on the edge of not just truth, but chaos. The stakes were higher than they ever imagined. Would they overcome the waves of past regrets? Would they dare to face the darkness threatening to consume them? The storm raged as the figure stepped forward, mouth curling into a sinister smile. Are you ready to truly see? As the shadows began to close in again, the ground trembled ominously beneath them, promising that revelation was both a blessing and a curse. What awaited them on this precipice of the unknown? The pit roared, swallowing sound and reason alike. Maggie felt the tremor in her bones, a primal fear that set her nerves alight. The whispers of the emerging specters grew louder, their collective anguish reverberating through her as painfully as any physical wound. Face us. One figure shrieked, its voice a haunting echo of lost potential. You must remember us. Maggie's breath caught in her throat. These were not mere shadows, they were the ghosts of their shared past, each one a prisoner of their unacknowledged grief. The realization crashed over her like a wave. They weren't just there to haunt, they were there to remind. The crowd shifted again, a mass of uncertain souls teetering on the brink of conviction. What do we do? A man cried out, his voice trembling. How can we confront what we've buried? By feeling it. Maggie shouted back, desperation twisting her words. We must break through. Let it out. The urgency in her voice twisted through the charged air, igniting some dormant part of the crowd. She saw hands clenching and faces furrowing into determination. The ethereal figure in white raised a hand, and the dark maw of the pit quaked, drawing tendrils of shadow upward, whispering secrets of despair. They are but fragments. It hissed, gleaming teeth glinting like daggers. Why should you stir their rage? I'd rather face their fury than live in this endless despair. Maggie shot back, her voice sharp and defiant. The shadows writhed in response, thrashing, almost as if her resolve had given them strength. The surrounding crowd echoed her sentiment, voices uniting. We will not be silenced. They yelled. Not anymore. With each chant, shadows shrank back momentarily, as if the combined force of their resolve could push back the tide of sorrow rippling from the pit. But the figure in white laughed, a chilling sound that cut through their momentary triumph like glass. Do you really believe that simple words can banish the darkness? It mocked, flipping its hair back, revealing a roiling mass of anguished faces entwined in a grotesque display. You tread on thin ice. What if you're wrong? Then we'll drown together. A woman cried out, her eyes fierce. But we won't drown in silence. The rawness of her pain struck a chord, resonating throughout the crowd until it became an overwhelming anthem. Suddenly, the ground split wider, swallowing several specters whole as they reeled back from the fury of the crowd. They shrieked in protest, their voices wavering like wind against the storm. But it was at that moment, amidst the chaos, that hope flickered. Maggie stepped closer, chin lifted defiantly. What are you scared of? Let us share this. We bear the weight of your pain, let us carry it together. She felt strong hands grip hers, support swelling as others joined her side, ready to step into the maelstrom together. With a shiver, a calm swept through the air, almost tangible. Stars blinked into view on the horizon above, cutting through the suffocating black that enveloped them. Was it a sign? But as they lifted their voices higher, rupturing the air with their truths, everything shifted once more. The very fabric of reality shuddered, and a pulse of powerful energy coursed through them. The air crackled with an electric tension, setting every hair on edge. What is happening? Someone shouted, panic rising. The light from above intensified, a stark contrast to the abyss below, but Maggie's eyes widened. She saw it here, a tiny glimmer of something beyond pain, a fracture of hope. It's time. She yelled into the winds. Time to break the chains. Yet, just then, the figure in white lunged forward, its features contorting into a mask of fury. You dare challenge me? The ground tore beneath them again, and a void yawned, ready to consume them all. In that moment, Maggie's heart raced, caught between fear and bravery. Could they really face this darkness? Were the bonds they forged strong enough to withstand the onslaught? As the shadows lunged toward the vulnerable group, Maggie felt a surge of power swell within her. But what if this was only the beginning of a far more dangerous game? Would they, once united, find the strength to overcome, or would the shadows draw them all into the depths of despair? The revelation of what lay ahead was like an uncoiling snake, curling closer to strike, leaving them on the cusp of ultimate trauma and transformation. Would they emerge renewed, or would the abyss pull them back into the darkness? The answer loomed just out of reach. Maggie barely had time to process her words when the figure in white surged toward her, the air electric with impending doom. Fear rippled through the crowd, voices stuttering abruptly to silence. The shadows, a monstrous wave, cascaded forward, hungry to reclaim their lost dominion. The collective breath of the assembled thrummed with unease, each person feeling the gnawing weight of history clawing at their hearts. Maggie! Someone cried out, but the name sounded swallowed, engulfed by the rush of darkness. She locked eyes with the figure, its mouth twisting into a snarl, revealing rows of jagged teeth glistening with malice, but the fierce eyes surrounding her reignited with purpose. Hands gripped tighter around Maggie's, a chain of resolve binding them. We stand together. A voice strong, unwavering broke through the fear. Together. They echoed, bearing witness to their collective strength, yet the ground rumbled, sending tremors that split their unity briefly. Shadows zigzagged across the earth, dragging phantoms back toward the pit's abyss, whispering promises of return, of eternal silence. The figure in white danced along the edges of chaos, taunting, mocking. Do you really think you have a choice? Do you believe you can rewrite your fate? It taunted, its laughter echoing in their ears like a clap of thunder. We are not afraid. Maggie shouted, a flame flickering to life in her chest. This is ours to face. Suddenly, the air shook with intensity, a force building between them and the opening of the pit. Spirit voices rose, each whisper dropping like stones into the chasm, rippling with intention, calling forth unforgotten memories. Maggie, hold on to me. A child's voice piped up, breaking the wind's ferocity. She turned to find a little girl, wide-eyed and trembling, clutching her mother's hand. There was innocence there, yet it was intertwined with something ancient that crossed generations. Together. Maggie repeated, instinctively stepping forward, her heart racing with a mix of fear and determination. All of you. Push back against what's trying to steal us. Energy surged through the crowd, winding like a rope, twisting with sorrow and strength. They were a tapestry of grief, each thread the story of loss woven indelibly between them. They gripped tighter, fueling their urgency, a network of souls willing to confront their demons. The light above flickered brighter, pushing back against the shadows that loomed around the darkness. You think you can shine in the dark? The figure in white spat, taking a step closer, its form swirling like smoke caught in the wind. Maggie, if we fail, a man whispered, the terror on his face almost palpable. If we fail as one, she replied, her voice steady and unwavering. It's better than failing alone. With that, they lifted their voices once more, a song of defiance rising. Every painful memory, every silent scream roared back at the encroaching void. The shadows shrank, dipping like a tide receding, quivering in response to their courage, but then, with a piercing scream, the figure in white lunged, darkness spilling from its outstretched hands. "I will not be forgotten." It thundered, and the pit peeled back to reveal a swirl of past grievances and anger. In that moment, Maggie caught a vision, a flicker of a past almost lost to the darkness. Faces of those who had fallen, those who never received solace. With a heart-pounding jolt, she realized who they truly faced now, not just shadows, but the very sorrow they all carried inside. Was the strength of their unity enough to face this pain head-on? Would they uncover the root of their suffering, or would the depths consume them all once more? The winds howled louder, the energy reaching a fever pitch, and Maggie stood firm, knowing they were at the edge of an unimaginable truth, one that would tear at the very fabric of their spirits. The choice ahead bore a burden heavier than any of them could foresee. Could they unwind the tangled threads of their heartache, or would they become the next whisper lost to history, swallowed by the void? The choice loomed, demanding their answer. The storm raged on, the winds howling like a banshee. But in that swirling chaos, Maggie stood at the center, unwavering. The tumult around her felt like the crescendo of a long-forgotten song, heavy with emotion, raw and electrifying. "We can't run from our truths. Face them with me," she called, voice breaking through the tempest, eyes locked on hers. The crowd began to stir, the desperate fear transforming into a collective resolve. "Draw together," she cried, hands outstretched, drawing every spirit beneath her grasp. "All our pain and hope, our losses and victories, let's weave them into a shield. Together, we can push back the shadows." In a heartbeat, their voices surged, first tentative murmurs, then powerful roars. "We remember. We acknowledge. We fight." With every shout, the air shimmered with a glorious energy that interrupted the relentless storm, illuminating their faces in a radiant glow. The figure in white, upset and agitated, shrieked, "You think you can rewrite the ending? You are nothing but echoes." But as it lunged, the group moved in unison, a wall of humanity refusing to yield. "We are more than echoes. We are alive. And we will not be silenced." With a fierce cry, Maggie stepped forward, driven by the collective strength of those around her. The shadows encroached, grim and insistent, but in that moment of defiance, something magical occurred. A bright light erupted from their hearts, an incandescent force pushing back against the darkness. Maggie felt the spirits of those lost surge with them, intertwining their grief and hope into an unstoppable wave. "Feel the sorrow," she shouted, every word thundering in the air. "Let it out. Cry for the lost, the broken, the ignored. Let us shed the weight of our burden." A climactic crescendo enveloped them, turning pain into power as each person allowed their emotions to spill forth. Tears streamed down faces, shouts of anguish echoed, but so did laughter, a catharsis mingled with each plea for redemption. The shadows faltered, quaking in response. "Don't give in." The hooded figure shouted above the noise, rallying the villagers to hold strong. "Their cries may haunt us, but they will also guide us. Together, we are unstoppable." Wave after wave of emotion crashed against the darkness, and the light grew stronger, vibrant and unyielding. In that electrifying moment, the figure in white wailed in agony, the shadowy forms dwindling as the crowd's bravery pushed forth. "You cannot deny the past. You cannot rewrite fate," it screeched, baring its teeth in desperation. "Then let us embrace it," Maggie yelled, heart racing with a newfound fervor. "We are not afraid of our truth. By acknowledging it together, we forge a path forward." With an almighty roar, the crowd surged, a river of resilience flowing to meet the specters. The earth trembled as a brilliant light flooded the expanse, illuminating every nook, every cranny, revealing the specters' faces, each one a reflection of their pain, now bathed in the radiance of understanding. Silence took hold for one solitary moment, the tension crackling as the last remnants of the storm coiled away, dissipating like mist in the sunlight. The figures, once twisted in rage, transformed, their features softened as if recognizing their anguish, no longer ill intent but voices yearning to be heard. "They are no longer lost," the hooded figure whispered, clarity written across his face. "For we have embraced them, we have set them free." The crowd erupted into cheers, their initial horror shifting into exhilaration. They clutched each other, breathless and alive, moments filled with the echo of their long-buried emotions finally surfacing like butterflies breaking free from a chrysalis. As dawn broke, painting the sky in hues of gold and blush, the city of Jerusalem emerged, cleansed in the wake of their catharsis, a vibrant heartbeat resonating with renewed purpose. Maggie's heart lightened, holding her daughter close, knowing they had all weathered the darkest storm but emerged into the dawn full of promise. Standing together, they turned their faces towards the rising sun, ready to embrace the new day ahead. With their hearts intertwined, they knew they would carry the lessons learned and the scars healed forever with them. This is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is your chance to join our community. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep us going strong. We need you to help us spread these powerful narratives. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about the ending. What did it mean for Maggie and the others? How did they find the strength to confront their past? Finally, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.